Benzite college student Keller thought he knew what to expect from his alien-human roommate, until he saw the human unpack an arsenal of ancient weapons, then smile at him. Keller had heard the whispers through the halls as he awaited the first human student ever to come to Galactic University. Even the dean seemed on edge when he informed Keller he would be rooming with the human. Rumors painted humans as emotionally unstable, even violent at times, but Keller wanted to keep an open mind. "Nice to meet you," the muscular human said, smiling as he exited the transport ship, a large metal case in tow. "I'm Aaron Jackson." "Keller," the Benzite replied. He eyed the heavy case as they walked. "Let me help you with that." "No need," Aaron said. "I've got it." When they reached the dorm, Aaron swung open the case. Keller's eyes widened. Swords, bows, arrows, knives, all glinting under the room's lights. Aaron caught his shocked expression. "Historical artifacts," he explained, "to remember my ancestors. I'm not planning to go on a rampage, if that's what you're thinking." Keller forced a chuckle. Before he could respond, an alarm blared through the building. Keller's datapad blinked a red alert. Armed radicals had stormed the admin center. They were demanding the expulsion of all non-Benzites, holding over 200 hostages until the aliens left. Keller's hands shook as he read the message. He looked up at Aaron, expecting to see the human panicking, but Aaron's face was calm, determined. He was already pulling weapons from the case. "I've got a plan," Aaron said. "You with me?" Keller swallowed. His whole body trembled with fear. Part of him wanted to hide under the bed until it was all over, but looking at Aaron, an alien who'd just arrived, already resolved to act, it steeled something in Keller. He needed to step up, to make sure his human roommate didn't get himself killed on his first day. "I'm with you," Keller said. "What do you need me to do?" Aaron's grin turned almost feral as he held up a glinting sword. "Oh, you're gonna love this. Ever wanted to be a hero?" Aaron flipped open his communicator, contacting the security team. "This is Aaron Jackson, the human. I know you're dealing with an emergency situation. I have extensive training in hand-to-hand combat and covert ops from my time in human special forces. Let me help you take these terrorists down." There was a pause on the line. "Why should we trust you?" The gruff voice of the security chief came through. "Because I'm your best shot at saving those hostages and ending this quickly. You know what humans are capable of in combat." Aaron's voice was steady, confident. Another pause, then, "Fine, meet us at the South Maintenance Tunnel in 5 minutes, and if you try anything—" "I won't. See you there." Aaron closed the communicator and turned to Keller. "You don't have to come, it'll be dangerous." Keller shook his head. "I'm not letting you do this alone. I'm coming." Aaron nodded, a glint of respect in his eyes. They hurried across campus, weapons concealed under their jackets. At the tunnel entrance, they met the security team, 50 highly trained Benzites armed with advanced, non-lethal weapons. The chief eyed Aaron warily, but gestured for them to follow. Inside the tunnel, Aaron took charge. "We should split into smaller teams, cover more ground. Keller and I will take the main auditorium, where they're holding most of the hostages. You 5, he pointed to a group of officers, with us." They navigated the dim tunnels, emerging into a side corridor of the admin building. Distant shouts echoed off the walls. Aaron signaled for them to split up. Then he, Keller, and 2 officers crept towards the auditorium. As they approached the doors, 5 heavily armed terrorists stepped out. Spotlights on their rifles swept over Aaron's team. "Don't move!" one yelled, weapon trained on them. The security officers raised their hands. "We don't want any trouble," one said calmly. "Let's talk about—" The terrorist fired, narrowly missing the officer. Aaron burst into motion, closing the distance in a split second. He disarmed the shooter with a deft twist, then spun, using the rifle to block the butt of another terrorist's gun. Keller gaped as Aaron moved, a blur of precision and power. In seconds he had subdued 3 terrorists, leaving them groaning on the floor. Keller and the officers rushed forward, taking down the remaining 2 with quick zaps from their weapons. But the commotion had drawn attention. Shouts and pounding footsteps, signaled more terrorists converging on their position. Aaron's eyes darted around, assessing. They were outnumbered, and the terrorists would soon box them in. "I have an idea," Aaron said, voice low and urgent, "but you're not gonna like it." He looked at Kalar, a half-smile quirking his lips. "Still glad you came?" Kalar's heart pounded, but he met Aaron's gaze steadily. "Absolutely. What's the plan?" Aaron's smile widened. He pulled a small metallic device from his pocket. "We're going to even the odds. Get ready to run." Aaron pulled Kalar close. "Here's the plan. Take the security team and set off the fire alarms and smoke grenades in the east wing. Draw as many of them away as you can." Kalar's eyes widened. "What about you?" "I'm going in alone. I'll get the hostages out." He patted the sword at his hip. "Don't worry about me. Now go." Kalar hesitated for just a moment before nodding. He signaled to the officers, and they slipped away into the shadows. Moments later, alarms blared through the building. Shouts of confusion echoed from the auditorium. Aaron seized his chance. He burst through the doors in a billow of smoke, sword already arcing through the air. It sliced clean through the rifle of the first terrorist he encountered. The Benzite gaped at his severed weapon, then crumpled as Aaron's elbow smashed into his temple. Through the haze, hostages screamed at the sight of him, a blood-splattered human wielding a primitive blade. But there was no time to calm them. He could only hope they'd have the sense to run when he gave the word. 2 more terrorists fell to his whirling sword before the others even realized he was there. He moved like a wraith through the smoke, striking and fading away again. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air around him, but he twisted away from each one, his enhanced reflexes almost precognitive. In moments, only one terrorist remained standing, a hulking Benzite, looming head and shoulders over the others. He roared a challenge at Aaron over the din of the alarms, leveling a plasma cannon the size of Aaron's torso. "I am Kronak," he bellowed. "I'll skin you alive, human filth." Aaron stepped forward, spinning his sword with a flourish. "You're welcome to try." Kronak fired wildly, plasma scorching the walls. Aaron rolled and ducked, always just ahead of the blasts. He leaped up onto a bench, then launched himself at the terrorist leader. But as he flew through the air, Kronak's cannon swung to meet him. There was no time to dodge. Aaron did the only thing he could. He threw his sword. It flashed end over end, straight and true, sinking to the hilt in Kronak's chest. The terrorist toppled, cannon clattering from his grip. Aaron landed hard, scooping up Kronak's fallen weapon. "Everyone out now!" The hostages surged for the exits, a tide of terrified Benzites. Aaron covered their retreat, cannon at the ready, but no terrorists emerged to challenge him. They had all fallen to his blade. Kellar and the security team met him outside, along with a crowd of wide-eyed onlookers. A cheer went up as the last of the hostages spilled from the building. Kellar clapped him on the shoulder, grinning broadly. But as the cheers died away, Aaron found himself surrounded by grim-faced Benzite officers, weapons trained on him. The one in the lead, his uniform heavy with insignia, held up a hand. "Aaron Jackson, drop your weapon and come with us. You're under arrest for the murder of the terrorists." Aaron's grip tightened on Kronak's cannon, but Kalar stepped in front of him. "Murder? He just saved all the hostages. You can't arrest him." The officer scowled. "He killed Benzite citizens. Vigilante justice is not our way." "They were terrorists," Aaron protested. The officer nodded to his men. "Take him into custody. The human will face trial for his crimes." They moved in, weapons humming with charge. Aaron tensed, ready to fight, but Kalar gripped his arm. "Don't," he said softly. "You'll only make it worse. We'll sort this out, I promise, but you have to cooperate." Aaron hesitated, then slowly lowered the cannon. As the officers bound his hands behind his back, he met Kalar's eyes. "I hope you're right about this." "Trust me," Kalar said as they led Aaron away. "I won't let them do this to you, not after what you did today." But as he watched the human vanish into a waiting transport, Kalar couldn't shake the sinking feeling that he might have just made a promise he couldn't keep. Aaron had saved them all, but in doing so, he might have doomed himself. The security officers hauled Aaron into the waiting transport, its sleek silver exterior gleaming under the twin moons. Kayla could only watch helplessly as they locked his new friend in the reinforced hold, the human's face an impassive mask. The next days passed in a blur of anxious activity, as Kayla rushed between meeting with university officials, poring over legal archives, and visiting Aaron in his holding cell. The human remained stoic, but Kayla could see the tension in his shoulders, the restless energy waiting to explode into action. When the trial began, the courtroom buzzed with a palpable current of hostility. Benzites packed the gallery, their whispers taking on a vicious edge as the human was led in, hands and feet bound in energy shackles. The prosecutor, a severe Benzite with cold eyes, laid out the charges with brutal efficiency. Reckless endangerment, excessive use of force, murder. His voice rang out, each word a damning indictment. This human acted with a flagrant disregard for Benzite law and custom. His archaic weapons and brutal methods have no place in a civilized society. We demand his immediate expulsion and extradition to Earth authorities. Kayla wanted to leap up, to shout that they were wrong, that Aaron was a hero. But the defense attorney, an elderly Benzite who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else, simply sat impassively. It was only when Kayla and the other hostages took the stand that the tide began to turn. One by one they recounted how Aaron had saved them, how his quick thinking and courage in the face of overwhelming odds had prevented a massacre. The human sat up straighter as they spoke, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. But it was the judge Zorin who truly listened, his aged face creased with concentration as he weighed the testimony. When the defense rested, he didn't immediately render a verdict as expected. Instead, he called for a recess, announcing his need to consult with the Galactic Council. Kayla nearly collapsed with relief. The council was known for its impartiality and wisdom in adjudicating interspecies disputes. Surely they would see that Aaron's actions, while unconventional, were justified. As the courtroom emptied, Kayla rushed to Aaron's side, ignoring the guards' warning looks. "The council will understand," he assured his friend. "They have to. You saved us all." Aaron managed a strained smile. "I hope you're right. I knew the risks when I made my choice. I'm prepared to face the consequences. I couldn't stand by. Not again. Not after." He trailed off, eyes distant. Kayla squeezed his shoulder. "You're not alone in this. I'm with you no matter what happens." Aaron nodded gratefully as the guards led him away. Kayla watched him go, heart heavy. He couldn't shake the feeling that there were greater forces at work here, currents beyond his understanding. His suspicions were confirmed a mere hour later, when a mysterious message appeared on his datapad. "Come to Docking Bay 12, it read. "We need to talk about your friend." Kayla hesitated only a moment before hurrying to the bay. A cloaked figure awaited him, features obscured. "Kayla," a deep voice intoned. "I am Talon. We have much to discuss about Aaron Jackson's fate." Meanwhile, Aaron paced in his cell, mind racing. His hand ached for the familiar weight of a weapon. These proceedings were a farce. He should have fought his way out, found his own way to make things right. He was jolted from his dark thoughts by the hiss of the cell door. A hooded figure slipped inside, movements fluid and deliberate. "Aaron Jackson," the man said, lowering his cowl to reveal a weathered face with piercing golden eyes. "I am Talon of the Galactic Guardians. I have an offer for you." Aaron leaned forward, intrigued despite himself. "I'm listening." Talon smiled, a sharp flash of teeth. "Your skills are wasted here. The Guardians have been watching you. We believe you have the potential to be a valuable asset in our fight against the rising tide of intergalactic terrorism. The Benzites fear what they don't understand, but we embrace it. Join us, undergo our training, and we can make this trial disappear." Aaron stared at him, torn. Everything in him longed to accept, to have a purpose again, to fight for something greater than himself. But doubt niggled at him. Could he trust this stranger, this shadowy organization? He thought of Keller, of the faith his friend had shown in him. Kela was fighting for him out there, risking everything. Could Aaron repay that loyalty by running away? But then he remembered the terror in the hostages' eyes, the chaos and pain wrought by the terrorists. If he joined the Guardians, how many more could he save? How much more good could he do? Talon watched him patiently, golden eyes knowing. Aaron met his gaze squarely, decision made. "I'm in," he said roughly. "I'll join your Guardians, not for myself, but for all the innocents out there who need someone to fight for them." Talon clasped his hand, grip strong and calloused. "Welcome to the Galactic Guardians, Aaron Jackson. Your training begins now." Aaron's training with the Galactic Guardians was brutal and unforgiving from the start. Zaxxon, a towering insectoid alien with cold, calculating eyes, oversaw every drill, every sparring match, pushing Aaron to his limits and beyond. At first, Aaron reveled in the challenge, eager to hone his skills and become the best Guardian he could be. But as the weeks stretched into months, he began to notice the cracks in the organization's noble facade. It started with whispered conversations overheard in dark corridors, talk of illicit shipments and eliminated rivals. Then came the missions, not daring rescues or counter-terrorism strikes, but assassinations, sabotage, the kind of work that left a bitter taste in Aaron's mouth. "We do what we must for the greater good," Talon assured him, clapping a heavy hand on his shoulder. But the words rang hollow. The tipping point came when Zaxxon summoned Aaron to his command center, a cavernous room filled with holoscreens and bustling technicians. The alien loomed over him, multifaceted eyes glinting. "Your loyalty has come into question, Jackson," Zaxxon clicked, voice like grating chitin. "We require proof of your commitment. A test." He tapped a control panel, bringing up an image that made Aaron's blood run cold. Judge Zorin, the Benzite who had shown him mercy. "Eliminate him," Zaxxon hissed. "He's a threat to our cause." Aaron's fists clenched at his sides. He thought of Kela, of the faith his friend had placed in him, of the hostages he'd saved, the good he'd tried to do. This wasn't why he'd joined the Guardians. This wasn't who he was. "No," he said, voice steady despite his hammering heart. "I won't do it." Zaxxon's mandibles flared in anger. "Then you are a traitor," he snarled. "And traitors must be dealt with." But Aaron was already moving, years of training kicking into overdrive. He slammed his elbow into the nearest technician's face, snatching the stunned alien's sidearm. Plasma bolts sizzled past him as he dove for cover, Zaxxon's furious shouts echoing behind him. He had to warn Zorin, expose the Guardians for what they really were. It was the only way to make things right. Aaron raced through the compound, dodging patrols and sentry drones. When he reached the hangar bay, he found Talon waiting for him, a squad of heavily armed enforcers at his back. "Don't do this, Aaron," Talon pleaded even as he leveled his blaster. "We can still salvage this. Come back to the fold." Aaron shook his head, raising his own weapon. "I can't be a part of this anymore. I won't." And then all hell broke loose. Aaron became a whirlwind of motion, his ancestral combat skills meshing seamlessly with his Guardian training. He flowed around his attackers like water, striking with surgical precision, every move calculated for maximum effect. But there were too many of them, and he was tiring fast. A blast seared across his ribs, sending him stumbling. Talon closed in, triumph glinting in his golden eyes. Just as Aaron braced for the end, a new sound split the air. The high-pitched whine of Benzite pulse rifles. Kela burst into the hangar, a squad of security officers at his heels, weapons blazing. "Aaron!" he shouted over the chaos. "We've got you!" Together they pushed back against the Guardians, Kela's men forming a protective ring around Aaron as they fought their way to a waiting shuttle. As the hatch sealed behind them and they rocketed away from the compound, Aaron slumped against the bulkhead, exhausted but alive. In the days that followed, the true extent of the Guardians' crimes came to light. Zaxxon and his inner circle were arrested, the organization dismantled from the top down. The Benzite people hailed Aaron as a hero, the man who had exposed the rot at the heart of their supposed protectors. But even as the accolades poured in, Aaron knew he couldn't stay. The cost had been too high, the scars too deep. He had to return to Earth, to find his own path. Saying goodbye to Kayla was the hardest part. They clasped hands on the landing pad, emotions thick between them. "So you'll always have a place here," Kayla said, voice rough. "If you ever need a home—" Aaron smiled, blinking back the sting in his eyes. "I know, thank you, my friend, for everything." He boarded the transport with a heavy heart, watching Galactic University dwindle to a glimmering speck below. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. He would never forget his time among the stars, or the bonds he had forged. As the ship hurtled through the void, Aaron closed his eyes, letting the rumble of the engines wash over him. A new chapter was beginning, and he would meet it head-on, armed with the lessons of his past. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.